What happens when hope meets its darkest hour? When the very light that has guided the lost begins to dim? As Jesus faces his final night as a free man, every look, every breath, every betrayal carries the weight of eternity. The disciples have walked with Jesus through miracles, teachings, and transformation. But now, they enter the valley of shadows, a night that will test their faith like never before. Welcome to the most intense chapter of The Chosen yet. The episode opens under the cool, foreboding night sky of Gethsemane. The camera slowly pans through the olive trees, their branches whispering in the wind like a divine lament. The moonlight filters through the leaves, casting an ethereal glow on Jesus, who kneels in isolation, his silhouette trembling as he battles invisible forces. He clutches the earth with bleeding hands, as if grounding himself amid the storm. The weight of the world presses upon him, not just spiritually, but physically. Sweat trickles down his brow, tinged red, blood born of anguish. In this single moment, heaven holds its breath, and the fate of humanity pivots on a prayer whispered in the silence of the garden. Jesus looks upward, eyes scanning the night sky. "Abba, Father," he whispers, voice cracking with human vulnerability. "If it be possible, let this cup pass from me, yet not as I will, but as you will." These are not the words of weakness, but of complete surrender to divine will. His voice carries a depth of obedience that resounds across generations. This moment is not simply personal agony, it is cosmic submission, the spiritual climax of history, preparing to unfold in flesh and blood. A vision flickers before him. John the Baptist, calm and resolute, standing in translucent light. He appears not as a ghost, but as a symbol of completed purpose. His voice cuts through the stillness. "You must decrease, that he may increase." It is a reminder and a charge, anchoring Jesus to the prophetic destiny he now embraces. As the vision fades, Jesus' breath steadies, though the weight of what must be done grows heavier with each heartbeat. A short distance away, Peter, James, and John struggle to stay awake. Their eyes flutter, bodies slack against the rough bark of olive trees. This isn't just a sleepless night. This is the calm before a spiritual cataclysm. They fail to understand the depth of this moment. The enemy does not come with visible armies tonight. The battle is internal, and Jesus is fighting it alone. They slumber, unaware that heaven and hell are holding court just meters away. Jesus returns and sees their slumber. His shoulders sag with sorrow, not for himself, but for them. "Could you not watch with me 1 hour?" he asks, voice gentle, though laced with disappointment. "Watch and pray that you may not enter into temptation." There is a loving urgency in his tone, a call to spiritual alertness. But their eyes are heavy and their spirits weaker still. The greatest teacher is now met with the silence of forgetfulness. Suddenly, a sound cuts through the quiet. The rustling of armor, the cracking of branches, a line of torchlights snakes its way up the hill. Soldiers, priests, shadows. At the front, Judas. The sacred is now desecrated by treachery. The contrast between divine peace and human betrayal has never been more stark. The garden becomes a war zone. Light and darkness collide under olive branches. Judas steps forward, each movement stiffer than the last. His eyes dart nervously, his hands tremble. He approaches Jesus with a kiss, the sign of affection weaponized into a symbol of betrayal. "Rabbi," he says, voice hollow. The act is quick, but it pierces like a sword. Jesus does not recoil. He looks at Judas with immeasurable sadness. "Friend," he replies, "do what you came to do." The word friend lands like a stone in the silence. Even in betrayal, Jesus sees the soul. Even in this, he offers love. The guard sees him. Peter, enraged, draws his sword. The blade gleams in the torchlight as he lashes out, slicing the ear of Malchus, the servant of the high priest. Screams echo. Blood spills. Fear explodes into violence. Yet in the chaos, Jesus remains centered. He reaches out, touches Malchus's wound, and heals it instantly. Time seems to stop. Gasps rise from the soldiers. Compassion, even now. "Put your sword back in its place," Jesus tells Peter. His voice is steady. "Shall I not drink the cup the Father has given me?" The weight of his words echoes. He chooses this. He walks willingly into pain so that others might walk freely into grace. As he is bound and led away, his disciples scatter into the shadows. Their footsteps mark the beginning of their own trials. Jesus is dragged through the narrow, winding streets of Jerusalem. The moon still hangs above, a silent witness to the procession of injustice. Blood streaks his face, and bruises begin to darken his skin. Every stone he steps on seems to resist the injustice being committed. He is taken to the house of Caiaphas, the high priest. The Sanhedrin, awakened in haste, gathers like wolves around a lamb. Their mission: silence the one who speaks too much truth. Inside the chamber, torchlight flickers on stone walls. The high council sits in half circle, faces masked with urgency and contempt. Jesus stands in the center, not defiant but resolute. Accusations begin to fly like arrows. He said he would destroy the temple. He calls himself the Son of God. The volume increases, a crescendo of fear disguised as piety. Jesus says nothing. Caiaphas rises from his seat, robes flowing behind him. His voice booms with false authority. Do you not answer these charges? What is this testimony against you? The silence that follows is louder than any shout. Jesus meets his gaze. With a calm that unnerves even his accusers, Jesus finally speaks. You will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven. The room trembles, not with physical force, but with spiritual truth. Caiaphas erupts. He rips his garments in an exaggerated display of outrage. Blasphemy, he cries. What further need do we have of witnesses? The guards move in. Fists fly. Spit lands on his face. They mock him, strike him. Yet Jesus doesn't resist. The lamb remains silent before his shearers. The Messiah, clothed in bruises, absorbs their hatred without retaliation. This is the cost of grace. Outside, Peter stands near a flickering fire. Shadows dance across his face, distorted by fear and guilt. The warmth of the flames cannot touch the cold in his chest. A servant girl stares at him. You were with him, she says. Peter shakes his head. I don't know what you're talking about. Another insists, you're one of them. A third voice chimes in, your accent betrays you. Peter, overwhelmed, snaps. I swear, I do not know the man. A rooster crows. Peter's eyes lift instinctively. Above, Jesus is led across the balcony. Their eyes lock, pain meeting pain. Peter stumbles away from the fire, tears streaming down his cheeks. He falls against a wall, sobbing. The rock, once bold, is now broken. In another room, Mary Magdalene clutches her shawl tightly. The women huddle together. Fear chokes the air. They will kill him, won't they? She asks. Mother Mary, composed despite the weight she bears, nods slowly. Yes, but this is not the end. It is the beginning. Pontius Pilate walks through his palace halls, eyes tired, thoughts unsettled. A scroll of accusations lies on the table before him. This man disturbs their order, he says to his wife Claudia. They fear him, yet cannot explain why. Claudia looks at him and whispers, I had a dream. There's something holy about this man. Don't stain your hands with his blood. Pilate sighs. The burden of power is beginning to feel like a trap. Nicodemus sits in dim candlelight, surrounded by scrolls and the faint aroma of burning oil. His fingers tremble as he flips through ancient prophecies, desperately searching for clarity in a moment clouded by conflict. He rubs his temple, anguish carved into every line on his face. He opened blind eyes, healed the lame, raised the dead. He mutters aloud, what more proof do we need? His voice carries the pain of a man torn between religious loyalty and spiritual revelation. Across the room, Yosef stands still, unsure whether to speak or listen. And yet, Yosef says finally, those who claim to know God best are the loudest in trying to silence him. The room falls into heavy silence as the weight of that truth lands with conviction. Meanwhile, Judas walks alone into a barren field outside the city walls, his silhouette small beneath a sky that refuses to comfort. The weight of 30 silver coins clinks in the pouch tied to his belt, each step causing them to rattle like the ticking of an eternal clock. His breath grows shallow as he nears the place where remorse swallows reason. Stumbling over a stone, he collapses to his knees, the world spinning in a blur of shame. What have I done? He whispers, barely audible above the night wind. He yanks the pouch from his belt and hurls it away. The coins spill, scattering across the rocky soil like cursed relics. The metallic clinking echoes like bones hitting the ground. Judas remains motionless, his sobs muffled by the darkness. The sound lingers, final and damning. Back at Caiaphas' residence, a grim stillness hangs in the corridor where Jesus is held. The soldiers prepare him for transfer, their armor clanking against stone floors. The early light of dawn begins to pierce the shadows, casting long, uncertain beams across the walls. As they bind his wrists with rough cords, Jesus doesn't flinch. He turns to them, eyes filled with authority and peace. "You have no authority over me," he says softly, "except what has been given from above." His words hang in the air like a divine proclamation, freezing even the most hardened of guards. One pauses, hand trembling as he finishes the knot. They don't speak, but their silence reveals everything: the tension, the confusion, the unspoken fear. But duty propels them forward. The ropes tighten around the wrists of the willing lamb,